This is Difference Talks. On this episode, we are joined by Bennie F. Johnson.
Our future requires the best of us, the best of our storytelling ability. It's calling on us to be artists. It's calling on us to be scientists. It's calling on us to be magicians, as we said before. You know, what's dynamic is our relationships with audiences and that human connection. Are they being enhanced, modified, or changed with the impulse of technology? What's going to distinguish those stories that add meaning? It's going to be the human aspects. What's going to create the true artistry that connects? It's going to be the human aspect.
Hello, everybody. This is Difference Talks. I'm Barry LeBove, CEO and founder of LeBove Marketing Communication and Training. Plus, the power of differentiation is our baby here as well. That's our pride and joy. We love to talk about it. Today's guest, Bennie Johnson, CEO of the American Marketing Association, the largest global marketing association. So they have 400-ish chapters, 50,000 members, incredible stories. And Bennie is fascinating because he's all about innovation and renovation, which we're going to talk about. And he's also a great believer regarding marketing itself, that it's about art, it's about science, and it's about magic. So, Bennie, I'm going to turn it to you. Give us a little bit of a background, and then we're going to go into a number of different topics. It's all yours.
Oh, my goodness. First of all, thank you. And thank your guests for being here and having me as a part of this conversation. Yes, I will say again publicly, I have the best job in the world. I'm highly biased. I will acknowledge that because I get to be the CEO of the world's most dynamic marketing community. Our members are everything from the 17-year-old kid who's just learning about marketing to the seasoned dean and practitioner, from the CMO to the creator who's creating your content. And it's that mix that creates a dynamic community that's essential for marketing today.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd love you to start right off with is innovation and renovation, which I'll share with the audience. That's your passion. So you've been with the American Marketing Association, we'll call it the AMA, but
Yes.
also Better Business Bureau,
Yes.
and also a Graphic Artists Association. You have come into these, and your whole approach has been innovation and renovation. Share that because it really stands apart as far as what your focus is. It's your differentiator.
Right. Well, it's so true. I've long said with my teams, it started off as a joke, but it was a joke that was rooted in just this great reality that no one hires me to come in and do the same thing they were doing. Right. And so I've internalized that. I've embraced that to know that early on in my career, I was thinking about things differently. We were approaching things differently. That was marketing or strategy. So one of the things that I've been passionate about is either being in startup examples where we're creating products and opportunities and things that didn't exist before, but equally the time when you get to come into a legacy brand or a legacy situation that's had some portion of success, but you have to acknowledge that the success that got you here is not going to get you there. How do you apply the same ways of thinking about the innovation in, from an architectural sense, a renovation? How do you hold on to heritage and legacy that matters, but position you in a way that new approaches, new audiences, new markets can drive forward on that?
With the Better Business Bureau, and I just had the opportunity to do a keynote with them. Great organization, 120 plus year old organization. You came in there about a decade or so ago, and you really looked at it. You helped upgrade them and invigorate them. What was your mindset when you did that?
You know, it was that space of, we knew we were renovating, right? Bringing out a team. I was building out. I was the first chief marketing / chief strategy officer. And so what was great about that is I got a chance to pull all these disparate component parts together that all fit underneath one banner of building marketplace trust, but were really different businesses. It was almost like we were a nonprofit conglomerate, that we had a mission that was front and center, but we had been around for so long that people respected us, but no one really understood where we were and why we were, right? So how do you build that in a way that not just externally, but internally, kind of reconnecting to the mission and then having that drive? What does the brand mean in the marketplace? What are the offerings? What are the services that we can provide? And it really challenging in that sense because there's a lot of good work that needed to be done. but the work that needed to be done wasn't necessarily the work that had been done. And having that tension of what does the marketplace need going forward versus what have you been into the marketplace? We think about things like privacy. We think of things about data usage, right? As we look through the evolution of technology, we look at what people are excited about. I mean, one of the things I remember that we did on the beginning is we started to validate and retest everything we knew, everything we took for granted. Often it's basically holding up a mirror to yourself and asking yourself if you're ugly, right? Nobody wants to do that.
Right.
But quite revealing in that moment. It's like, so I remember we put together an insights team, and one of our first challenges was we had a core set of principles which define trust that we introduced into the marketplace for years. So when we talked to small, large-size business industry, it was at the heart of these items. One of the things that we did, which was really instrumental, was we went out to the marketplace to validate each of these areas. Is this something that still matters to you, individual consumer, to you, company, to you, industry? Let's have some real data to go along with it. You know, some of it qualitative, some of it quantitative. Let's actually do real analysis to beat this up to say, are these the things that stand? What was really powerful, where we were happy to report, is the principles that the BBB had put together 30, 40 years ago were still at their heart. Refinements on the edge, but still at their heart relevant to the marketplace today. That was really powerful. But what was even more powerful is that we started to see a couple of others rise to the surface that hadn't been considered before. And those are things: how do you treat your employees, and how do you treat the world and those around you, right? So this leaned into the ethical practice of data and knowledge, and privacy was in that space in there. How do you engage with your world there? But, you know, this notion of how do you treat your employees being front and center for how you establish trust in the marketplace. This was things that we added that became additive to the space. So now, by asking a really hard question, does the things that we're pushing, does it really matter? It's a platform. Yes. Resounding yes. Is it contemporary for today? Yes. Do we leave ourselves open enough to see that today's contemporary consumer has grown off of that platform and requires even more?
Well, it's so critical what you did there, because people need to feel significance today. And
Right.
if that employee, no matter what industry we're talking about, that employee is disenfranchised, and they're going, you know, I'm just a cog in the machine. I don't mean anything. I'm not doing anything special, as you were talking about, Benny, then you're losing the battle. I mean, there may be a few things you get here or there, but you're in trouble. Let's talk about the American Marketing Association. And I want to go front and center on the technology that we're looking at today. You came in, you've been running this, you're doing a phenomenal job. There is not a day where there isn't a technology headline that some conglomerate in the marketing or advertising field is laying people off and they're going to go use AI, et cetera. What are you seeing out there? And what's your message to our audience, which is all over the world, dealing with technology, marketing, advertising, and training?
Oh my goodness. What is the message? The message is marketing has always been about creativity through innovation and resilience, right? At its heart, that's been a part of it in space. We've been at the nexus of all of these changes in technology. You know, it's just in the past, we were the ones who were focused on it, and it was just a kind of bump in the highway. Today, we're at the space where we see large scale change. But guess what? We're still at the heart of it. We did a bit of research here at the AMA to see that at this point, over 80% of marketing leaders are actively experimenting, using, and playing with AI. Now, this is important to know that we're playing with AI. So we're not afraid to be engaged in it, which is very important. This is a distinction, though, from being able to master and execute for pure impact on the business. We're not there yet. The technology and our engagements are still at the early stages in there. But what's encouraging is that you see marketing as a discipline, marketing as a field, stepping into the space. Some of it's our internal driver. Some of it is we're the part in the organization where our other C-suite counterparts are saying, okay, marketing, you take the first pass to figure out how this works. That's the encouragement that we have, that, shying away from it, moving away from these advances in technology are not going to serve the marketing profession or the professional well, or your message or your brand. but solving what's right for you and your organization in this time. We see some organizations that have a different level of maturity in which, using AI, especially to handle vast swaths of data or rote activities, is a true game changer. In other spaces where we talked about the human faculty, the human creativity and strategic guidance is really what's going to drive. Can we find ways to accelerate that to bring more time and more energy for that part of our skill set? If we can do that, then there's a positive. These things don't replace, as we mentioned before. Eventually, everyone will have parity and will all have access to the same tools. So when we talk about what separates you apart, if everybody has the same tool, then we have a recipe for sameness there. The question becomes what sets you apart, and that's that critical faculty, the creativity, the engineering, the resilience of the human mind.
Now, from an ethics standpoint, what are the potential pitfalls regarding AI? Because you talk a lot about ethical and practical challenges of this technology. So what would you share with our audience on that?
One of the things that I'm fond of saying and really speaks to ethical questions on these spaces are just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And that's kind of a really good, fun way of talking about a really thorny issue in that space. We see that a lot of the ethical challenges are about work creation and ownership. They're about things like privacy and data. What's interesting is they're not new ethical challenges, they're extension of those conversations. We've been having privacy and data conversations both in the continuous 48 and globally for the last few years. It's just an extension of that. We've had conversations about how to use data in ethical ways. We've had conversations about how to identify and provide attribution of the work that's done, how to make sure we're telling the truth in what's being advertised, to not artificially manipulate engagement. Those are all things that are about an ethical practice. The tools may change and evolve, but truth in advertising still remains. Attribution still remains. Respect of privacy still remains, right? And you notice each of those areas, the way I frame them, are still ethical concerns that existed 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And they're going to be something that we're going to be dealing with as technology and operations advance 20 years from now. These are kind of ongoing spaces in there. And if you start off with the do no harm, respect, review in there, it opens up the conversation. We as the marketers who are going to be the hyper users, we're in an incredible position to create that framework. I think a mistake that we can make as an industry is by stepping back and letting everyone else create the rules of the road.
When we come back from break, I'm going to talk to you about the future of marketing, what your vision is. So everybody, we're with Bennie Johnson, CEO of the American Marketing Association. We'll be right back.
Difference Talks is a LaBeouf production. Our focus is differentiation, and we believe it's more important than ever to differentiate your brand and experience. Contact us at labeouf.com for a conversation. We'd love to connect with you.
Welcome back to Difference Talks. We're with Bennie Johnson. Bennie is the CEO of American Marketing Association. We've talked about AI. We've talked about art, science, and magic. We've talked about innovation and renovation, trust. Bennie, you're working with this organization, 50,000 individuals, 400 chapters, global reach. What is the future of marketing? And this is important for the young person who's listening and watching. It's important for the seasoned professional, for the academic, for the customer, the client. What is the future as you see it today, Bennie Johnson?
I think the future is not only special, I think it's spectacular. When you think about it, there's so many opportunities that exist and will exist that we as marketers get to craft in the marketplace. Whether you're a student who's just starting out, you're an academic looking for something to study, to bring these ideas in a world. Our future requires the best of us, the best of our storytelling ability. It's calling on us to be artists. It's calling on us to be scientists. It's calling on us to be magicians, as we said before. What's dynamic is our relationships with audiences and that human connection aren't being replaced. Are they being enhanced, modified, or changed with the impulse of technology? Yes. But as we mentioned before, what's going to distinguish those stories that add meaning? It's going to be the human aspects. What's going to create the true artistry that connects, it's going to be the human aspect. Will we be able to get better on the technology space? Yes, yes, yes. We know that better is the trajectory, right? We understand that. But we know that our human faculty, our human skills, our human inquiry is what separates just existing from thriving, right? It's the human case that's going to come up with the novel research idea that provides new insights and breakthrough. That's not something that your AI model is going to be able to predict. That's the work of artists. That's the work of marketing scientists, and that's the work of magicians. And I think that work continues to go through. Yes, will you get a serviceable ad that can be done with technology? Yes. Will it require our entry-level skills to be different? Yes. And we've seen that. You think about as you enter marketing today, it's very different than the skills you needed 20 years ago. It's very different than the skills you needed 40 years ago. We as an audience continue to progress. Also, as the end product, we're all marketers and audience of marketers at the same time. Our expectations continue to evolve, and we're looking for more than just the product ending in 99 cents and being on sale near you.
I'd love you to go a little deeper. You just gave us a little bit of an insight. Talk about the artists, the scientists, and the magicians, the art, science, and magic of marketing. Right. To me, that's a Bennie Johnson special. So give us some of that.
When you think about brand and design and clarity and creativity, it's the artists that win, right? That's what we're pulling on. It's the impact of color and emotion and human connection and organization. That's key to really good marketing, right? You think about the science of the space in there. We looked at this is a management science. How many times do we have people come in and like, oh, I can do marketing? Because they see the tip of the iceberg, not the mechanics of the iceberg, not the mass of the iceberg, not the science that goes into the iceberg, right? What we do is we can paint the picture of the beautiful day and then understand the science and engineering. But then the point that comes in that's really powerful, it keeps us enamored with marketing. It's what most marketers, when you talk about why did they get into marketing, it's that combination of those things that produce the magical moments. It's the combination of understanding when you've done all the prep and training, you've thought through the design science, you've thought through the behavioral science, you've thought through the mechanics, the logistics, and you have an insight, you have an execution, you have a timing and moment that sets and breaks culture apart and allows you to build something that was unexpected. That's that magical moment, right? Where the world may want you to show them how the trick was done, but in reality, it's all the work of being an artist and a scientist, well worn and well thought time over time that brings you to that moment.
See, I love that. I find that so often, and I'd like to get your feedback on this because it inspires. So often you come up with an idea or a creative concept. Mm-hmm. It could be a song, it could be anything, but let's say it's a creative concept and you literally lose track of time. Right. You lose track of time as you're working on it. And all of a sudden you look up and wait a minute, things have changed. What's going on here? What is that, Bennie? What is it when we as humans have been pulled in there and we're no longer adhering to the normal rules of society? We're like lost in this.
Yeah. In some respects, time travel in that state is magic, right? How do you define the beginnings and middles and ends of that moment, that feeling, that being in the space? It's if we're having a contemporary conversation, it's creating a vibe, right? It's how do you find these emotional, cultural, momentary moments that set you apart? How do you find yourself being lost in the work that you're doing? How do you find these moments of clarity and insight? I think all of those things are part of being a marketer, right? Could you find it in other professions? You probably can. But, as I said from the beginning, I'm naturally biased. I'm speaking from the point of being a marketer with marketers. And these are the things we hear time and time again, where you understand the creative brief, you understand the assignment at hand, you understand the breakthrough opportunity. You also understand what's at stake for your team, for your family, for your organization and idea. So finding yourself lost in that moment, this isn't marketing for the sake of consumption on the state of consumption. This is how am I providing the best offering, the best information, the best connecting with the audience in my offering to bring us all forward. That's powerful work, right?
If I am a creative that's watching or listening, tell me what you're hearing marketers are looking for today. So that individual at the company, the client, they're looking for something. Tell our audience, what are they looking for today? What is most important?
They're looking for impact, right? They're looking to break through the noise and the clutter. They're working to have partnership in every way of the work that we do. In some cases, you may have marketing leaders who may lean more towards the creative space in there. Other times they may not. They may lean spacing, but ultimately you're looking for a partner to deliver against this space. How do we have defensible breakthrough brand impact? And that can show up in your core metrics, or it can show up in the moving the brand forward. Those environmental factors, the cultural factors we mentioned in there, the spirit, the essence, the vibe, the space in there. What you want is a partner to deliver that to you, right? What may happen as a part of that may evolve. You think about some of the great campaigns that become kind of a running joke or running gag in a space in there. You're not just delivering the one successful campaign, you're then using it as a platform to iterate, to iterate, to iterate. How do we get deeper in those spaces in there? How do we then build that rapport? That's what I'm going to be looking for. I had a dear friend of mine who always said that she hired agencies to challenge her and do more than she could do with her team in-house. It's not a replacement, it's an extension and acceleration. And so I think if you think about the partnership in that, as you do in your own life and team, you want to be around people who have your best interests at heart, have skills that complement or challenge yours, and are willing to go to battle with you. Right? That's what you ultimately want in the space in there. Because as we know, the best briefs are hard fought and hard run, right? How many of our successful briefs come up because, Barry and Bennie just said, let's make it 3. And magically it happens there. There's a lot of work that gets to those spaces, and it's a collective win, right? It's a protected win. It's a brand sensitive win that goes into it. And so I'm a marketing leader. I want those around me, whether they're a technical agency, a creative agency, or somewhere in between. I want them to have those tenets.
I love that you said that, because it is so common and tempting in the marketing world for the agency to pretty much mimic whatever the client wants, because they don't want the client upset. They want to make the client happy. But in essence, what you just said is the client doesn't want that. They want to be challenged. They want an extension of their team. And if it means we go to battle with the right attitude, but we go to battle on something,
right,
all the better.
I'm paying you to help me win, right? If you appease me and we lose, we've all lost, right? And in that space, we're going through it. Now, you may lose the debate or the battle, and we'll come up with something that's a shared product. But, these are important things that go into it, right? These are important parts of the work that go in. And you're hiring an agency, if you're internal, to extend that reach and challenge your space, especially if you've been a stable incumbent, right? So you get back to that spot of, as I mentioned before, no one hires me to do the same thing we were doing. So I've had the privilege of coming into lots of organizations that have been successful. But my challenge is to move them from success and winning games in a regular season to winning a championship. And those can understand the metaphor, whether you're a sports fan of any space in there. There's always these examples of teams that do really well during a regular season, but can't get over the hump that makes them a championship team. It's the good to great kind of scenario. Like, what gets me over that space in there? And if you have agencies or creative partners in many different ways, vendors who are working with you, you want that energy. You want that challenge, right? Once again, this is the magic that moves you forward in there.
You're right. And it takes courage, Bennie. It takes courage to say, okay, I know the client wants me to say this, or at least I think they do, but I can't say this. I've got to be able to tell them, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I believe. I do like what you said in addition, which is it's not A or B sometimes. Sometimes it's C. Agency believes such and such, client believes something else. Together, they then take the A plus the B and they get C. And C may be a lot better. So I
It may
agree.
be. And that's our hope, right? That's what we're building to. That's what we're beating up. That's that kind of innovation and renovation once again.
What's
Mhm.
your message to marketers today? Because we're going to have thousands of marketers listening to this. What is your message to them as to what you say they need to do to get the best work, the best relationships, et cetera? What's your message?
I think we as marketers need to boldly lean in to our marketing superpowers. We understand the customer, we understand the brand, we understand the impact. Don't second guess ourselves in that. We not only deserve a seat at the table, it's our table to be there, right? The language of the C suite is the language of marketing at this point in time. That wasn't the case before. And I'm not saying so much in terms of marketing speak, just using terms that we only know, but the conceptual language of it: brand, impact, customer engagement, insights. Those are all spaces in which we in the marketing function have a healthy understanding. I think they're also keys to success, whether your brand is a nonprofit brand, a B Corp, a startup, or Fortune 5. These are things that are going to serve you well. Remember, you're building teams for tomorrow that may not look like teams of yesterday. And you've got to be okay with that. We want to be open to play and experiment, which means that things are going to work differently sometimes or not the way we planned. And we have to be okay with that. Understanding that technology is going to continue to evolve and create some accelerations and can create some new approaches, which may have some changes in the way we operate it. And we have to be okay with that, because on the other side of each of these things are our human creativity, our human problem solving, our human driven innovation, which combined with the tools are going to be the breakthrough for your brand.
One final question. As you, on a daily basis, work with a number of people, there could be fellow partners at the AMA, there could be academics, there could be that 17-year-old young person trying to learn and get into this industry. What is a best day for you, Bennie? Meaning this, you get done, you go home, and you feel more energized and fired up than you did when you walked in. What's a best day for you? What's it look and feel like?
Oh my goodness. It's those days in which you have a glimpse into the future. So it is the getting a chance to be on campus and talk to marketing students at any university, large, medium, small. It's having the conversation with the former CMO of a large company who's privately telling me they've left and they're starting something new, right? It's that spark of, it's talking to a research scholar who just had a great idea when they were on the plane and they want to share it with you first. It's that spark of what's next that shows up in our lives, whether we're 17, whether we're 49, whether we're even, I had a podcast interview. I was honored to have a podcast interview last year with the great Phil Kotler. And at 94 years old, he was talking about the future. Blew me away in that moment that Phil Kotler, the father of modern marketing, that we all took the books for the 4Ps, is talking not about what he did yesterday, not about what's going on today, but he's looking around that corner. That's the future. So for me, those are the reminders each day. It's small things like a student who says, hey, it's great to talk to somebody who's been in marketing. It's the conversation with someone who's transitioning into the field. It's the I'm starting a startup or have a new idea that are in space. It's the day that you get a phone call or get asked to write a reference from a marketing professor being promoted to dean. Those are those moments of what's next that mean a lot to me.
And I would be, I'd have to say, remiss if I didn't ask you for your message to that young marketing person. Could be an artist, could be a future account person, could be a technologist who's moving up and moving into this industry. What's your message to them?
That tomorrow is always filled with promise. And your creativity, your resilience, and your drive are going to serve you well. Marketing is not a profession that stays static. I'm often fond of referencing the notion of our universe. Marketing is something that continues to expand. The spaces, the skills, the people, the challenges that exist in marketing today pale in comparison to what existed yesterday and are going to be just a glimpse in the rearview mirror of what happens tomorrow. So what I love is marketing is a generative profession, and you can bring the best of yourself, but you also got to bring the best of your intellectual curiosity and delivery. I think everything is marketing and marketing is everything. And if you internalize that, your path to winning may be different from mine, but we all win.
I have to thank you, Benny. This has been Benny Johnson, CEO of the American Marketing Association, the foremost marketing association in the world. Benny, you've talked about innovation and renovation. You've talked about art, science, magic. You've inspired marketers and young, upcoming marketing professionals. So I thank you today. I look forward to you and I joining together in your podcast shortly. And I have to tell the audience that please look into the AMA, American Marketing Association. Look at what it's offering and look at how vibrant and important it is today. In fact, if not more than ever, certainly as much as it's ever been. So until next time, this is Barry LeBove. Thank you for watching and or listening to Difference Talks.
Thank you for joining us on Difference Talks. All of us at LeBove are proud to celebrate great people with inspiring messages. Difference Talks was created, produced, engineered, and performed by the LeBove team. Even the music is original. Contact us at lebove.com to learn how to differentiate your brand and give your team a sense of significance and meaning.